So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Teresa Lopez. She is a content strategy lead here at SEO Interactive, and Jordan Strauss, who is a data strategist here at SEO Interactive. They are going to be talking to you about how a wrapper costs the finance industry millions and how combining SEO and PPC data protected our finance clients' bank accounts when that industry shift happened. So Teresa, I'll let you take it away.
Great, thanks, Erin. So if we did our job correctly, you're probably wondering what this guy, 21 Savage, has to do with banking, and we'll definitely get to it, I promise, because he caused the financial industry $29 million in potential wasted spend. So we'll definitely talk more about that, but we'll leave that as a tease to the end. So keep that in mind. We will definitely get back to it. But unsurprisingly, it starts with Google. You know SEO, you know us, probably always comes back to Google. And we first want to, before we want to continue, we'll talk more about the financial industry in particular, but we are seeing similar changes for other industries such as education, the automotive and insurance space. So while we'll talk today about what we're seeing in the financial industry, how affiliates are affecting it, how SERP landscapes have been affecting that specific industry, it's definitely not alone, and it's something that you should be looking out for in your own industries if you're outside of finance. But let's first start talking about the different ranking landscape shifts within finance. So one of the biggest trends that we've seen in our day-to-day working with financial clients is affiliates gaining ground. So this snapshot comes from SEMrush, and it's their estimated traffic trend. So it's definitely directional. It's not something we use for detail, but if you look to see the trend line, you can see for NerdWallet up and to the right, this is actually starting from January 2015, a 6-time increase. If you look to this month, they're gaining a lot of traffic. It's becoming huge. They've really invested in SEO, and it's something that we've continued to see within the SERPs is them gaining ground. We've also seen similar increases for Investopedia. This is more on the educational side of the financial industry, but since 2015, we've seen a 2-time increase of this traffic. So we've really noticed a lot of change happening with affiliates, and they've been really increasing in the amount of traffic and visibility they've been able to drive. And banks are fighting to stay relevant in search. And this is, if you look at the just images themselves, you'll notice that on the right-hand side, whereas for NerdWallet and Investopedia, these were rising up and to the right. Here it looks pretty plateaued. So keeping consistent with that 2015 date, you only see about an 86% increase, which on the face of it is great for organic traffic. If we told most of our clients we increased 86% over the course of these amount of years, that's great. But if you look in recent years, such as 2017, 18, 19, you really see a plateau and you see flat traffic for Bank of America in particular. We're also seeing things similarly for Wells Fargo. Again, you'll see this plateau on the right-hand side, but if you compare it to 2015, they've had a 1-time increase, but really no movement since 2017. It stayed pretty steady. And the reason for this is the SERPs have really changed over time to show different results for standard banking or financial terms that you would expect. So looking at the query credit card from 2018 in January, I skipped past the paid search ads just to look at organic. And you can notice that there's a mix of financial institutions and affiliates ranking, starting with Visa, MasterCard, Bank of America. All of those are around, Chase as well, and then 2 affiliates are present. Pretty standard. Affiliates are there for people who are looking to compare or looking for best credit card information, but really most of the results are for financial institutions, at least at the top of this SERP. Cut to May of this year, things are a lot different. So this knowledge graph is coming up on the right-hand side, but it's not just the knowledge graph itself to notice, but this card issuer right here, this box. So instead of, before if you look to this search, you'd click on an affiliate and then you'd probably get to understand the different companies that they're recommending for credit cards. Google's giving you people or companies to look into right away, which is really interesting and something that can definitely take people away from the SERP and take people from really exploring, go directly to a brand. We're also seeing a people also ask box here as well. And then when you finally look at the organic listings, you'll notice it's really different. So whereas before there was a sea of yellow with financial institutions ranking, affiliates have really come in and taken over. So it's taken up the 2 slots up top, Visa's coming in number 3, news results are now happening more often, and then affiliates are down below. So this is something that we've seen fairly consistency for top of funnel terms related to finance, that if you're searching for a credit card, you'd probably expect to see an actual credit card ranking, but based on behavior, Google's really noticing that people are looking more so to compare and find information, and affiliates are potentially doing a better job of doing that and educating these customers. So if we look back and think back to 2018, the full 10 SERP slots for organic traffic, 5 of those were held by financial institutions. Looking at May of this year, only 3 slots are for financial institutions. There's been a really significant, 2 slots doesn't seem that significant, but if we're talking about 10 listings, it really is. The competition is going to be tougher for financial institutions. There's not enough opportunity or as much opportunity as there once was. And it's something really to keep in mind as you're in this space or other spaces where you're noticing affiliates coming in, that your ceiling for ranking might be different than it used to be before. So one of our clients, we took a look at their converting paid searches, and for 60,000 of these terms, only 80% had a bank organically ranking on page 1. Do you think about that? That is just fascinating and scary if you're on the SEO side of things. If you're on the paid search side of things, you probably feel more secure in your job. But the fact that no banks are ranking for these queries on page 1 indicate that you're going to have to pay to play, whether that be on paid search or with affiliates. So that's something we'll talk about more and discuss how to find some of these opportunities. Another shift that we've noticed that I alluded to already is shifts in the actual search result pages via features. So just talking through this to level set, what this screenshot here is a carousel feature. It looks like a normal answer box or a listicle, but at the bottom you can see these 3 buttons for miles, cashback, and bonus. These actually allow you to click and change the whole SERP result without even typing anything differently. So Google's serving up suggestions of modifiers based on popular behavior. So just keep that one in mind. And then I talked about this before, but for people also ask, we're also seeing these as well. So for these, they start off usually as a list of around 4 questions. And then once you click the drop down to look for more information, Google will start to populate more and more of these, taking up even more visibility in the SERP and keeping people engaged on the search result page itself, potentially versus someone coming to your website or even exiting the SERP to go somewhere else. They could get all of their questions answered here. So we took a look at several of our clients in the financial space to look to see the different scale and scope of SERP features from 2018 to May of this year. And you'll notice the trend up and to the right pretty clearly. This top green line is for people also ask, the feature that I just showed. It's really clear how much this has grown and different points that it's had. So June of last year, it had another boost. And then in February of this year, continuing on, we're still seeing that increase happening. So by no means is the SERP finished changing. As we all probably know right now, that's never the case. But this is really indicative of how things are continuing to change in the finance industry specifically. For carousel, that's this gray line here. That's a little bit harder to see, but you can see those increasing as well. Again, this is a potential threat for Google to answer questions directly on the SERP and not have as many people coming to our own websites. And then this red line here that's also pretty significant is related searches. So Google's continuing to add more features to quote unquote help users and keep them engaged. But if we're keeping them on the site and answering their questions on google.com, it could definitely impact our traffic and potential conversion. So we'll definitely talk more about how to find opportunities in the face of all of this change. Another thing that we've noticed is placement is changing as well. So the position of a #1 ranking has been moving in the scheme of all of these things too. So there was a study done by Orbit Media Studios that in 2013, for this example query that they took a look at, it was 330 pixels from the top of the page on google.com. And I'll show you a visual so you can have a comparison. But in 2019, it was 1,050 pixels from the top of the page, which is really significant. And if you look at the screenshot itself, on the left, it's the 2013 snapshot. You can see the Google SERP of past, where they had the yellow ad box, so it was really clear which were ads. It still had the author photos that they were testing back then, and it was not a very long distance until you got to the first organic position. Compare that to the right-hand screenshot for 2019, and just going down the line. First, there are more paid search ads in the landscape in the results itself. There's no right-hand ads anymore. And the ads themselves tend to be longer and chunkier and have more callouts like ratings than in previous examples. Then there was a carousel, which I talked about before. Then a people also ask, then finally position one, which is really significant in terms of, how organic search has trended and the different elements that we're competing against. So if we look at this in terms of inches, because I doubt everyone is measuring things in pixels. Originally in 2013, it was about 3.5 inches down from the top of the page. Now it's 11 inches for this example. So it's 7.5 inches further down to even hit the first organic search result, which is definitely really scary if you work in SEO. Again, if you work in paid search, you might feel a little bit great about yourself, and we'll talk about how to utilize that data a little bit more later. And it's not just the SERP itself changing, it's pop culture and news also impacting the landscape that we're working within. So for the term cash machine, this music video is coming up by Dram. I don't know who this is. I don't know how to pronounce it. But you can see if you scroll past the videos, you can see that there are local ATM results being pushed all the way to the bottom of the page. It's definitely something, if you had a customer, you are in the banking space who are looking for a cash machine, they're probably going to have an interesting experience versus what they might be used to seeing for the term cash machine. So not all of this is meant to be bear or bad news. We'll start talking about opportunities and how to win in the face of all of these changes and find opportunities. But we did want to just pause and think through, like, how is your company dealing with this? It's definitely something you don't want to give up on. It's something that hopefully you want to continue fighting through. And the biggest asset you have in this fight is data. With all the things that I've shown, I think a growing trend of this is paid search has had the ability to hold their positions, even increase some of the visibility based on the search listings increasing in size. So you're probably already paying more in paid search to recover some of this lost traffic or conversions based potentially on some of these organic changes. So we'll want to talk more about how to use that data that you've already paid for in the right way to find opportunities and efficiencies. So one example of this is to use it to save money and time. So 2.7 years is the average estimated time it would take to find negatives for paid search versus this tool we built that does it immediately. If we have data from paid search and you use it the right way and you put it together in a dashboard and you view it and manipulate it the right way, it gives you so many more opportunities to improve and build upon what you found and find these pockets of opportunity versus just giving up. Paid search data also allows us to talk about the true business impact of the work that we're doing. If you're talking to your boss, you're probably more likely to talk about revenues and monthly search volume already. So this allows you to talk the talk and then also walk the walk of using the knowledge of what's converting for your strategy. And Jordan will talk more about that later. But it's really indicative, even if you just look at reporting. So from an SEO dashboard in Google Analytics, you can see non-branded visits, the most viewed landing pages, different search engines, and compare that to a paid search report. So obviously cost is included here. It's kind of the nature of the channel, but you can also see revenues included as well. One of the biggest benefits of using paid search data that we'll discuss leveraging is the fact that you're able to get down to specific revenue numbers. And not that it's not the case for organic, it's obviously harder, but you're able to do this at a keyword level, which is instrumental in being able to find opportunities. So if you're wondering, if you're working in the SEO team and you're wondering why paid search counterparts are getting more money or getting more invested in, like, they're talking about money and we're probably talking about keyword rankings. It's definitely different, and it shouldn't make it shouldn't be confusing as to why that's happening. But for the rest of the presentation, we'll talk through how to utilize both SEO and paid search data to find opportunities. And one of the other reasons to utilize paid search data that I'll go through is that it gives you the ability to look at search queries. So search queries are what someone types directly into a Google search bar that you're able to get on the paid search side of things. You're not able to see that on organic based off the not provided change many years ago. So we haven't had keyword level data in a long time, but paid search still has search query level data. So why is that important? You can probably tell by the slide, but people tell Google their secrets, especially in the financial industry where people have potentially more shame or embarrassment around it. They're more willing to talk to Google about some of their problems and questions versus a friend or family member. I read a study in the New York Times fairly recently that more people are likely to talk and share their weight versus their financial situation, which is really indicative of how sensitive a subject this is, and something that we can utilize search queries to better understand what these people are going through, since we probably won't hear it any other way. So looking at a couple examples, the first is should I loan? So should I loan money is mostly what these queries are about. And what's crazy to me is people are asking the internet's opinion to this question. A really personal question. It's something that, you know, is probably weighing on someone, and they're turning to Google to answer this. This is something that we should be getting signals from and understanding, you know, what are people caring about? What are they concerned about? And utilizing these to create content to answer these questions from a more reputable source than like a Yahoo Answers. And the question of this is probably going to be a no. The next one that I'll talk through is how can I improve? So you'll see that the top suggested result is how to improve my credit score. And a lot of the things below are more about health. So this really sticks out to me. If someone's looking to improve their credit score more than some of their health functions, that's really indicative of how much someone cares about this and really like how important it is to someone who's in this situation to improve this credit score. It allows you to know what are people's concerns, what are they feeling, what are their anxieties, so we can answer them and speak to them as companies that can help them solve their problems. And again, none of this is just to be like an anthropologist and just know about it. It's more about finding these opportunities and figuring out how we can answer them on our own websites and make them trust us and become loyal and create some nice brand loyalty. The last one I have here is how to get out of debt. So people also modify queries based on their certain circumstances or situations. So how to get out of debt if I have no money is really common here. With bad credit, fast, you're able to understand some of these anxieties that people are going through that if you're not going through the same situation, you might not be able to understand. So if I was working with a client and I wanted them to write a piece about how to get out of debt, I'll probably think about the emotions this person is going through and how can we write to reassure them and comfort them and make sure that we're answering their question, not only from a content side of things, but also from an emotional side of things. People also look in Google for the answers to test questions or like quiz questions. So all the one highlighted here, just pretty funny that people are just using Google to cheat. I guess it's not surprising at all, but that's also coming through for search queries. So these are really good opportunities to add to a negatives list for paid search. So getting back to the financial industry, we took a look at a couple examples based on some of our clients and search queries we've seen for them. So we noticed that people are searching for a lot of what questions, and quite a few are asking, what do you need to open a bank account? If you think through that, this person has a pretty strong intent to open a bank account. They're looking for one of the first steps right before you open of what do you need. It's definitely something that we'd want to be present for. And if you look at the bottom, people are searching for specific banks in general. So for Bank of America and Chase, these are definitely things that people are looking to do before they finally convert. But we're letting people down. So this is the example for Chase. If you look at the answer box, Go Banking Rates is answering this for Chase. And then the first people also ask is being answered by ABC News. Chase isn't answering their own questions that people have about opening an account with them. which is something that, in the face of all these affiliate things, you really need to find these pockets of opportunity to help people, especially people who are so far down the funnel, you're searching for your brand name. And Jordan will talk about that a little bit later. But if I was a person and I was looking to open a bank account at Chase, and I click on gobankingrates.com and it says there's no fee, and then I go to open a bank account and there is a fee, creates a lot of brand mistrust. I might not convert if I'm seeing that. Maybe the company doesn't have everything together. It's just misleading. It's definitely something to look out for as opportunities for you in the face of all these changes. There's definitely some of these still available. Another thing that we notice in search queries is when people search for, they kind of indicate with the next word more specifics of what they're looking for. So in this example, high yield savings accounts for seniors, savings accounts for seniors, for over 50s and 60s. Seniors are looking for banking accounts and savings accounts that are best suited to them and their situation. They're clearly identifying that, I am a senior and I want to find a better option for me where I am in my life stage. So if we search for that in Google, you'll notice that the first 5 results, all from affiliates, aren't actually about seniors. It's not until the 6th result at the bottom, once this goes away, that the balance is answering about the best bank accounts for seniors. So while above we talked about how affiliates are coming in and there's kind of this sea of things happening, there's definitely some opportunities to look for things where affiliates aren't solving the needs of every user by utilizing this paid search data to, leverage these opportunities. So with that said, here's what we'll go over for the rest of the presentation today. We'll talk through how to find searches where financial institutions can and should still be ranking. We'll also talk about what content to create to capture long tail informational searches, and who is ranking for search features that you can win and should be winning. Jordan will also talk about how to avoid search intent mismatches, particularly when it comes to paid search, as well as how to catch affiliates that are ranking with snippets for your own brand keywords, potentially causing confusion, like the example I just showed above with Chase, as well as how to find the next partner you might want to spend ad dollars with before they get big and sell their leads to the highest bidder. If you can find the next NerdWallet or Investopedia while they're still smaller and might be more willing to negotiate with you on price, it could be a huge win for your company long term. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass things over to Jordan Strauss.
All right, thanks, Teresa. So let's dig right in. So you remember this slide where we're talking about where can financial institutions still rank? We've got only about 20% of this sample of terms where financial institutions are showing up on page 1. So, you've got your best credit card rate search. There's not a single bank that's showing up on the first page of Google. It's all affiliates and search features. So you might be thinking, I just invested in a content team. I'm paying for SEO. Is this all a waste? Well, it's not a waste because you've been paying already to collect a significant amount of data on your paid search team, and there are ways to use the organic data to leverage back and help out the PPC team. So there are still organic opportunities to make money. Here, if we look within this 20%, there's still around 12,000 searches that we know made us money last year because they converted for us on the paid search side of things. So we can start small. You already own your branded searches, right? Well, do you own your branded search features? Nope. In this case, as Teresa was talking about earlier, we've got a lot of people also ask questions that are branded, where affiliates and other sites are coming in and owning these branded search features. So you've got, in this case, NerdWallet is going to be answering questions for your customers. And I like this example because it's a space where they're answering the question, but they're not really doing it well. The question is, does Wells Fargo have a credit card? And the answer here is discussing ways that you can redeem credit card rewards out of an ATM. So this presents a pretty nice opportunity to actually own this branded people also ask question. So beyond your branded people also ask questions, you can also dig in and get these questions at scale to aggregate non-branded questions on different categories. So here's an example where we're looking at non-branded questions about applying for different credit cards and finding out what those questions are that people are asking. So by merging our paid and organic data together, we can start to see things like Google's telling us what people are asking, and those people also ask questions. We can see how many conversions that different keywords drove you over the past year for those questions, and then what content is currently ranking and what content you should model after and create if you want to show up and answer those questions that we know drove you money. And here's an example of where we can look at different search features on the organic side of things and see exactly which keywords and search queries that converted for us are showing up for different search features. So for example, if we're looking at answers or people also ask questions or images, we can see exactly what search phrases showed up for each of those. So you might be thinking to yourself, but Seer, I really need to be the best. I want to show up for those best searches. Well, there are still some pockets of opportunity for these comparison terms. Here's an example where for best joint savings account, you have a couple banks that are showing up on the first page. But the trick is intent matters here. Best searches mean people aren't ready to buy yet. So if you want to rank for these, you're really going to have to make sure that you're talking about ways to help searchers make decisions and think about things they should consider before they're ready to open the account or make a purchase. So you might also be thinking we're talking a lot about helping the SEO team. Can any of this help my paid search team? Well, we've got you here with some organic search data. Here's an example where we're looking at organic results. The search term is types of checking accounts, and the intent here is for the person to compare different checking account types. The organic results that show up include an answer box list, people also ask, and then the results are all these comparison guides and affiliates. Now, if you look at what the paid ads that are showing up, the intent they're serving is open a checking account now. They're talking about deals and offers that they have and different promos to get people to open an account right now, but that's not what people are searching for. And so if you actually look at where you have organic results showing up, we have Santander Bank showing up with a page one organic result to compare different checking accounts. But then what they're serving on the paid side is serving the intent of open an account right now. And so we might be able to get more conversions by switching gears here and serving up a more mid-funnel ad that more matches what we're actually ranking for and Google thinks is most relevant. These poorly targeted ads also mean that you're paying twice for the same leads because as people search for this, they search for different types of checking accounts, they click on an ad, they end up on your site. It doesn't help them compare you to other banks. And so they come back to the search and then go to one of these affiliates that better answers their question of looking for different types of checking accounts. So then you're not only paying for the click on Google Ads, but you're also paying these affiliates to show your products up on their sites. And so you end up paying twice for these when you don't serve them what they're looking for in your paid ads. So here's an example where you can use organic data to improve your paid search landing page. Here we took several $1 million worth of keywords that did not convert at all. We pulled up what the organic result was, and we looked at the paid search landing page and found areas where there was a mismatch. And we were able to take this data and say, this is what the organic result is. This is what Google thinks is most relevant to serve the search intent for these search terms. Does our paid search landing page actually match that? And when it doesn't, we could use that data to improve our paid search pages. So what can I do about these affiliates taking over? The bad news is that for most of these terms, these are search terms you're going to have to pay for one way or the other to be visible for. So you're either paying for the Google ads or you're paying up to show on these affiliate sites. But we can use the organic results to show us which media partner is most cost effective over time. Who's ranking really well for this and who should we be paying so that we show up top? So here's an example of where we're looking through different search affiliates to show what terms they're showing up for, what different people also ask questions they're showing up for, and who we should partner with. The size of the box here shows the number of people also ask questions that each domain is showing up for. And then when we click on them, we can see exactly which searches and people also ask questions that they own and what we should be paying them for to show up for. As Teresa was mentioning, we can also use this to find these up and coming affiliates before they become the next NerdWallet and cut some good deals with them so that as we watch them rise in the ranks over time, we're already showing up on their websites. So to wrap up this section, this sounds like a lot of work. There's a lot going on here. There's a smaller and smaller piece of the pie for SEO to capture, but we have a lot of resources that can help you out. So Will has put together a series on how to use Power BI, how to merge your paid search and organic data together to find some of these insights. We've also done another webinar recently that we have a video recap of how you can prioritize your SEO work with this paid search data using our big data tools. So you might be thinking, again, it's a lot of work, but what happens if you don't do it? Well, let's get back to our 21 Savage example. Back in 2017, we saw a spike in searches for the term bank account. And so we were wondering what caused this. Will showed this in 2017, the search term bank account. You can see that a bunch of banks are paying to show up in these ads, but the result is actually this 21 Savage video. So guess what? It's 2019 and these companies are still paying to show up in these search results and getting clicked and basically wasting dollars showing up for a video search for bank account. And guess what else? They're still really paying for these, even when the search term includes the term video. And how I feel about it is right here in 21 Savage's face. So remember that all this data is at your fingertips. Don't ignore it for another 2 years and go from 29 million 2017 to 87 million spent up through 2019. And with that, we can hop into questions and answers.
Thanks, Jordan and Teresa. Super interesting. And just to add on to a little bit to that sort of mistake click market, right? Folks are mistake clicking on these ads when they're really just trying to learn the lyrics to a rap song. Will recently did a quick analysis. He's done over 30 of these sort of efficiency analysis, and he's been able to estimate that on any given PPC account, there's about 15% of spend that's typically questionable in terms of like falling into these categories. So if we back that onto all the money that Google made last year, that's about an $18 billion market for Google. So potentially Google is making up to $18 billion a year on these mistake clicks, which is crazy. It's the size of McDonald's or Starbucks in terms of their entire business. So the problem is a lot bigger, I think, than any of us are realizing, and we're really just starting to skim the surface here in terms of being able to identify this efficiency at scale with things like Teresa talked about, the in-house tool we built that runs on clients daily to kind of find these negatives. And we're also working on a outward-facing tool that would allow the industry to kind of pin their data against some of the stuff that we know, like the bank account example, have been eating up spend in different industries. So we're working on a lot right now because we know it's a big $18 billion problem. And we do have some resources out there, like Jordan mentioned, on Power BI, the Power BI guides on our website and on our YouTube that can help you start to chip away at this yourself. Cool. So want to jump into some of the Q&A. The first question I wanted to start off with is that we talked a lot about the finance industry, but I imagine that this is happening beyond just the finance industry. So can either of you talk a little bit about some of the other industries that you see these types of affiliates or news or pop culture references kind of sneaking in and doing similar things?
Yep, I can take the first shot at that, if that's okay, Jordan.
Sure.
So one of the places that we're seeing it a lot is in insurance as well. So people are looking for different types of insurance. This is more about the affiliate space versus the pop culture space. But we're seeing a lot of aggregators ranking for people, again, looking for similar things to compare these items to look for the best deal or the best insurance for them. So it's definitely not only for finance, but it's starting to move into different industries as well. I think what you have to look out for is what is a fairly complex decision that someone needs to make that they might need resources on, that they want to compare choices. Bank accounts fall into that. Cars can fall into that. Different colleges can fall into that. There's definitely, if you are in that space, or there's, you know, some thoughtfulness behind whatever product or service someone would buy for you, I might be a little considerate or worried about some of these comparison things coming through, and something you'll definitely want to monitor via some of the tools and ways that we started talking about to make sure you're not going to be overtaken and it's not going to be a surprise, but you could proactively start working together with these affiliates, as well as finding pockets of opportunity that are still relevant for your brand.
Thanks, Teresa. Jordan, you want to add anything on there?
Yeah, I would just add that in particular, the branded people also ask questions are showing up across many, many industries. So pretty much no matter what industry you're in, you can check out your branded people also ask questions and find opportunities there.
Awesome, thank you. So moving on to the next question. This is a little bit more nitty gritty, but can one of you talk through some of the tools you use to do this analysis? So this attendee is specifically asking, like, outside of SEMrush and Moz.
Sure, I can take this one. This data is coming from AdWords accounts, and then we're using a tool called Stat to collect organic ranking data for those search terms. And then we bridge those data sets together using Power BI and use that for data visualization and digging through all the data.
Awesome, thanks, Jordan. Next question up. So when you discover other sites are ranking for branded questions, what do you do to create content there? So, and then it goes on to say, if so, how long does it take for them to rank on the first page when you create that content?
For branded searches, you really should be looking at what the exact question is and doing your best to answer the specific question. The reason that other sites are showing up for those branded searches is because Google is finding content on their site that answers it better. It may not be answering it very well, but it's currently answering it better than what's on your site. So you can aggregate all of those questions at scale and go through and make sure that the content on your site is specifically answering those questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. And this one might be a little bit more opinion-based because it's asking us to look inside the black box that is Google. But when you see institutions not ranking for a given query, do you feel like you can overcome that trend with better content than sites such as affiliates? Or do you think that Google actually wants to show X% of results from institutions and X% of results from affiliates, and that's just it?
I can take the first run of that question, if that's okay. Yeah, it's a really good question, and I don't have a 100% like know this answer, but the sense that I feel, and this is just my opinion, based on how I've seen things move, is that Google has changed based on user behavior. So the signals that it has about what to rank is based on what users are interacting with, clicking on, and if they're staying on that page or if they're leaving that page. So that sense that I get with affiliates, especially for comparison terms and best terms, is that Google has seen that the intent is more so not to just give someone a credit card page or give someone a bank account, but give them the options because they've seen them react best with that type of behavior. People like to go to those, people like to compare, they like to have different resources. And again, in financial industries, people are less likely to talk about some of these things than maybe other industries. So I think it's more indicative of the behavior that people have had over time. And that's how the affiliates started to come in, because as Google has started testing some of these affiliates and realizing that people are interacting well with them, it's just continued and continued. And from a personal standpoint too, like if I'm looking for a new savings account, I probably won't just click on the first listing and call it a day. I'll probably do my homework, and hearing third-party opinions or quote-unquote third-party opinions can sort of help. Obviously, we are a little bit more suspicious, I think, in our industry. So I think it's less of a percentage rule, but more of user behavior. And this is one of the conversations we've had to have with clients recently, And what we've been talking about is like, what is the ceiling for where a financial institution can feasibly rank on page 1 as this continues? We started investigating this about a year ago as we started seeing some of this happen for some of our product categories. And we've really noticed over time, it's just kind of marching into different categories that it wasn't before. So it's more about this user behavior and some of these terms that I think people are preferring these affiliates for versus a more significant percentage breakdown that we're having to communicate with clients about and be really clear about the opportunity and the piece of the puzzle shifting based on these changes.
Yep, and I would just add a few things that it is possible to show up for some of these comparison search terms. Looking into the data, you can see where you have, X number of financial institutions still showing up on the first page. That's where I'd say to start looking. But then, looking at, for example, the best queries or comparison queries, if you want to show up on those pages, Google is making it very clear that your page has to help the user to make those comparisons. So that might mean talking about your competitors on your own website. And that's a really difficult thing for a lot of clients to do, is to sell the idea that we're going to compare our product to other competitor products on our own website and really help the user make a decision, even if in the end it doesn't help us directly.
Awesome. Thank you both. So next question is a good one as well. So with new songs coming out every day, right? New songs, new news, new pop culture references. How do you keep track of negating all the right terms?
Yeah, I really like this one, actually. So when we're using tools like Stat or different rank tracking tools, we can see over time all the areas where different search features start to show up. So for example, in the bank account instance or cash machine, we're seeing videos show up. So if we were tracking those keywords over time, we'd notice, hey, we're seeing a lot more video results. Let's take a look at that. And so we can dig in specifically looking at, for example, searches where it's triggering lots of videos. And that might point us in the direction of, hey, these are music videos, or these are not directly relevant. It's triggering videos. And so we wouldn't necessarily look at a specific song that's coming out, but if lots of search features are showing up that might signal a different kind of intent, then we can use that as a guiding post.
Awesome, thank you. And I would throw in there as well, we did kind of take that question upon ourselves as a company, and we created a proprietary in-house tool that all of our PPC clients are connected up to. And once we plug, and the goal is to find any sort of that inefficient, wasted spend that really can hide in the accounts. So we plugged new, and Teresa had this as part of her presentation, we plugged some new clients into that tool, and we were able to really quickly identify the inefficient long tail search terms triggering from keywords that had been in the counts for an average of 2.7 years. So that's really kind of how long these things can hide out there. And if you're doing analyses that don't sort of capture things at scale, maybe you're only looking at things that have conversions over like 2, or you're only looking at things that have a certain search volume, you're kind of missing all of these pieces that are hiding in those long tail search terms. So that is one way that we're constantly working to make sure that we can start to do these things at scale versus have to do them in one-off analyses. So another good question, as a content lead and data strategist, do you two work together? And I would add on to that as well. If so, how do you work together?
Yeah, I think we can both answer this one. If you want me, I can take the first shot and you could add in from your perspective. So the answer is yes. We actually work on a client together now. So we really live this day to day, and that's how part of this presentation came about, is based on things that we're seeing and having to strategize around for our own clients. So generalizing, because we do a lot on the project, Jordan has built really great Power BI dashboards to find these pockets of opportunity to be able to flag, hey, video results are coming in for this query. That's really strange. Like, we should dig in here. Or I took the client's paid search data And there are terms where it says there's no search volume from an organic standpoint, but we know that they're converting on paid search. So those are really good opportunities for us to target and go after, and really finding these pockets of opportunity. Where I more so come in, and it probably is evident in the presentation itself, is from the emotional content side. Like, how do we answer these people's questions in the right way, knowing their state of mind through some of these questions? So for how to get out of debt, a lot of things about finance are really, really emotional. So what I work on and what I work with the team on is, how do we keep that in mind? How are we empathetic to that, knowing that people are in situations that they probably don't want to be in and are, fighting to survive in certain aspects. So I'll take the pockets of opportunity that Jordan has had. He'll also very thankfully pull people also asks that are relevant to the query. So I get a sense of what are the main topics that are coming out and what are the specific questions people are having. And then I'll work with my team to define, like, okay, if these are the questions, what are the best answers for these people? And maybe it's not opening a bank account. Maybe it's, you know what, your money is better suited somewhere else. Then it's about giving them the honest answer, and an answer that's empathetic to their specific situation.
Yeah, Teresa really covered it well. I spend a lot of time in the data, a lot of time trying to find ways to visualize it in the most useful way for the larger team, to pull out specific insights. And keyword research is one of my favorite things, because you really are looking at human behavior and what people are searching for and what they care about. And when I can dig in and level up those insights on what people care about and what's making your business money to the larger content team, they're able to run with that and come up with some really great stuff. So yeah, we work together all the time on this stuff.
Thank you. And give me one more second. A new question just came in. So this attendee would like to know, how often are you updating your negative lists? Is there value in doing this on a recurring cadence, or do you normally find all the waste in the first try?
Yeah, I would say that this is something that is worth running repeatedly. I mean, as we can see in some of the graphs that we showed, different search result types and features are showing up more and more over time. So the stuff that we might have negatived out a year ago or even a few months ago might be different than what we'd negative out now based on the search intent that Google is showing. So this would definitely be something we'd run repeatedly.
Awesome. So it looks like we are out of Q&A questions. We will be sending out a recording of this webinar to everyone that's on this. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to respond directly to that email and we can help you out. And definitely check out those Power BI guides on YouTube, and in the lab section of our website. We'll also include some links to those resources in the email we send. Thank you all for spending some time with us this morning and this afternoon, depending on what coast you're on. And hopefully we'll see you again at our next webinar.